and welcome to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers Podcast. I am Jody Grunwald. This week, my guest is Kathy Durante. Kathy is Executive Director for the OceanFirst Foundation. She grew up in her early years in Poughkeepsie, New York, and then made her way to Ocean County, New Jersey. Kathy's career started in the not-for-profit sector at what was then the Delaware Valley United Way. She then moved on to become the Executive Director for the United Way of Ocean County before taking a seat on the other side of the not-for-profit, or as I say, for impact table, as Executive Director for the OceanFirst Foundation, where she has worked for the last 18 years. Kathy shares how she has had so many who have helped support her as she has grown along her career path, and now how she is paying it forward and helping so many others along theirs. Through her work, she is not only able to help fund organizations through the OceanFirst Foundation, but she also takes the time to share her knowledge and connections so that she can help make a greater community impact. Kathy also shares about the importance of taking risks and being ready for when opportunities present themselves. She's a recipient of several awards, including the Girl Scouts of the Jersey Shore's Women of Distinction Award and Big Brothers Big Sisters of Ocean County's Humanitarian Award. Please subscribe to the Today is the Day Changemakers YouTube channel. Stream this podcast on all streaming sites. Like us on Facebook and Instagram at Today is the Day Live It. I am also the CEO and co-founder of the Zach G. Aplorda Kids Foundation, a not-for-profit organization that is making a difference in the lives of children with financial barriers who are looking for an ongoing creative connection through the performing arts. Please visit applaudourkids.org for more information. Have a great week, everyone. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Today is the Day Changemakers Podcast. Every week, I have the opportunity to introduce our guest to our audience, and these guests are incredible. They're change makers doing incredible work within their communities, and today I have Kathy Durante with me. Hi, Kathy. How are you?
Jody, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so glad you're here with me today. Thanks so much.
Happy to be here on such an amazing day.
I know. The sun is shining today, so it's a great day to record here. It's great. So I'm just going to read, as I always do, the bios of these incredible change makers, and I never want to leave anything out. So Kathy Durante is the Executive Director and Secretary of the Board of OceanFirst Foundation based in Toms River. She's held this post since 2003 and is one of the organization's founding directors. OceanFirst Foundation is the first foundation in the nation to be established by a bank as part of an initial public offering. And since its inception, the foundation has invested more than $42 million in the community and programs with more than 8,300 grants awarded to hundreds of nonprofits and schools throughout central and southern New Jersey. Kathy manages the day-to-day operation and oversees all aspects of the proposal submission and review processes, chairing the foundation's major grant committee, which is charged with recommending grants to the foundation's board for consideration. And under Kathy's leadership, the foundation launched new initiatives and partnerships focused on meeting the needs of the local community. And prior to joining OceanFirst, Kathy served as the Executive Director of the United Way of Ocean County, leading their community building efforts, is the recipient of the Girl Scouts of the Jersey Shore's Women of Distinction Award, Big Brothers Big Sisters of Ocean County's Humanitarian Award, and was named Women's Advocate of the Year by Ocean County's Advisory Commission on the Status of Women. Oh my goodness, Kathy, that's incredible. And there was more. I left out some of the things that you have in here.
You just took me down memory lane. Thanks.
Absolutely. And I got to learn some things too, because I did not know about the United Way. That was new when I was reading your bio, because I know even before we started recording, we were talking about the length of time you've been at OceanFirst. So I didn't know what you did before OceanFirst.
That's where I started. I actually started at the Delaware, what was then the Delaware Valley United Way, which has become the Greater Mercer United Way, I think it's called now. So, I started there, and then I moved down to Ocean County when I was engaged and planning to get married. My husband's from this area, and that's kind of how I made my way to the shore.
Wow. All right. So yeah, that's a good segue to go back a little bit. We'll take you a little bit more further back on memory lane. So where did you grow up?
I actually grew up, well, half of my young years were spent in Poughkeepsie, New York. I lived right outside of Vassar College, and then in my teen years, we moved to New Jersey. I grew up in Hamilton, graduated from Nottingham High School there, and from there I went on to Rutgers.
Wow. So that was your path. That's great. And I love Mercer County. Mercer County is a great county. I've worked in Robbinsville for 7.5 years for the American Heart Association. Truly great over.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great place to grow up.
So when you were younger, did you think that you would have this type of career in banking?
No. And I still don't have a career in banking per se. If you ask me any banking related questions, I'm going to give you the best people that I know at the bank that can get those answers for you. But no, I didn't necessarily see myself doing this. I think I probably, in my experience at Rutgers, I thought I would graduate and go to law school. But at some point, I think I decided I had enough school and I wanted to take a break. And during that break, I took a job at the Delaware Valley United Way, and I just enjoyed it. And, kind of from there, I stayed within that philanthropic sector.
Right. And isn't it's incredible, right? Because I'm on the nonprofit side myself. So it's when you're going to organizations for dollars and seeing it from that view. And so you were at the United Way, most likely going for to organizations for profits for dollars. Now you sit on and have since 2003, which congratulations to you. That's amazing. Have now been helping other organizations to expand their reach by providing them with dollars through the foundation. So tell us a little bit about sitting on both sides of the table.
It's really a great perspective to have, because I so appreciate how challenging it can be to raise money. And even way back when, I mean, the model of United Way back then was employee-based campaigns, and that's evolved a lot since, with all the technology and changes that they've had. But I just have so much respect for people that have to do the fundraising, because it's difficult work. You have to be mission focused. You have to have your eyes on, building connections, identifying good partners. It's super rewarding, but it is challenging. And, you're subject to, every year there could be something different. I mean, obviously this past year has presented everybody with the challenge of COVID. But if I go back over time, there were different spots where there were other things. 9/11 was one of them. Way back in the United Way days, there were challenges at the United Way of America that impacted our work. So there's always kind of over time been different events or things that have happened that have kind of challenged everyone to rethink how they fundraise, how they make those connections, how they keep connections, how they build their partnerships in the community, even in like the toughest and worst of times.
Yeah, absolutely. So explain to us a little bit about your role with the organization. What is a day in the life of Kathy Durante at OceanFirst Foundation?
Well, it really depends on the day. And what I really, really love about this role is that every day is different, right? So, in a pre-COVID year, we got to spend so much time out in the field with partners and kind of getting out there and connecting with people. And last year was so different, where we were kind of, forced to kind of keep things close to home, limited working in the office and things like that. But, every day is different. This morning I got to talk to some folks about lessons learned within philanthropy on the banking side from, funding and working with partners during the pandemic. And next week I'll be, on the road out visiting partners I think I'm in South Jersey, and then, we're all over the place. Our footprint has changed so much.
Mm-hmm.
That's been a big part of it, is learning the new communities where we operate, as OceanFirst Bank has really grown and prospered over time. And through some acquisitions, our footprint has become so much bigger. We started out in Ocean and Monmouth County, but now we're in Atlantic, Cape, Cumberland, Gloucester, Monmouth, Ocean. I mean, they have offices in Philadelphia and New York. So it's learning, who are the good organizations doing awesome work in those new areas and making those connections. And it's just fun to do something different every day.
No, it's exactly. I'd get bored too doing the same thing over and over again. It's so nice to be able to have a little bit of different things happening each and every day. But there's always a fire. I think in the nonprofit world, there's always, right? There's always a fire going on.
There's always something, but luckily with the work that we do, I always say even when we're stressing about things that have timelines and deadlines and things that have to happen, we just need to pause and remember we're trying to do good and help people. So if you just, have patience with yourself and those around you and just keep that in the frame of mind, I think we're all better for it.
Absolutely. So what would you say your favorite part of your job is, your current position there?
I work with awesome people. I love the team that I work with, both, right at the foundation and also throughout the bank. But, favorite part is just being out there and getting to meet so many amazing organizations that are doing like awesome stuff. A lot of times with, big challenges in front of them, and getting to know them and the work that they do and the great ideas that they have on like how things can be better for people. Every day that you get to do that, I think is just like a great day. So being out there is the best. We work with such a range of organizations too. We work with, this year we've got summer camp back on track, right? So we're working with organizations that provide summer camp scholarships to kids. We have our Home Runs for Heroes partnership with the Blue Claws and Town Square Media that is helping military and veteran charities. We do grants for fire and first aid squads. So, every day is a little bit different depending upon, what we're working on at the time.
So if I'm a nonprofit listening right now thinking, oh, I really want to talk to Kathy, right? Because that's what we do as nonprofits, right? We really want to hear more about. What would you suggest? What are the pillars that they really need to fall into? And what do you suggest to those nonprofits who might say, oh, I wonder if OceanFirst Foundation would be interested in being a part of what we're doing?
So if you're an organization that's never worked with us, we are easy peasy. We're a 3-person office. The best thing you can do is pick up the phone, right? Just call us, talk to me, tell me what you're doing. We can tell you if you're a great fit or a good fit. The primary focus areas for us are housing, youth development and education, improving health and wellness, and improving the quality of life in the communities that we serve. But beyond that, we work with arts and cultural organizations, and we're always open to ideas, right? If somebody has a great idea that we've missed or another organization has missed, we want to hear about it. So we're not a super huge organization, our foundation. There's 3 of us on the staff team, and we have a board of about 20 people. So we're super easily accessible. It's not too tough to reach us, and a conversation, just like we're having right now, a simple conversation is the best way to begin.
And I have to say, and I really want to say this to you because it's important. Gratitude is so important, and I am grateful for our very first conversation. Everybody who listens to this podcast knows that I'm also the CEO and co-founder of Floater Kids, and you sat down with me and we had a conversation, and you said, well, we'll keep an eye on you, and I had no idea what that meant, but you really did. So for anybody listening, when when you're going to talk to and start building a relationship with a potential funder, build a relationship, build rapport, make sure that if they say they're watching, and it's such a great story because your organization and because you've believed in us has grown over the last 3 years exponentially. So we thank you. The kids in our program thank you. But I want others to know that when somebody tells you they're watching you, most of the times they really are watching you, because you don't necessarily believe that when you hear them say that.
Yeah, we get approached throughout the year. There's a lot of newer organizations that are just much like you were trying to get that momentum going. And I always say sometimes it's just a matter of the timing being, the right timing, the right project, the right idea, the right program that's really going to fit well with what we do. And, the other part of it is like everything doesn't necessarily on our side have to be about just getting the grant. I am happy to talk to anybody about, the nonprofit community that I've grown to know, or the philanthropic community that I know, help make connections for people. So even if it's a scenario where, you're out of cycle and we've already completed a round of something, I'm happy to chat with somebody and say, hey, you might want to try to reach this one or that one. And that's important too, because the connections happen over time. They don't happen like instantly.
Not at all. And I think that's what in our first conversation, I remember when we first started, I was taking my pad and pen around everywhere. Whoever would talk to me to give me any insight and was willing, I was taking notes and I would go and follow through. So I believe you introduced me to some people and we had a great conversation. You asked me the other thing too is that if you're new as a nonprofit, you need to talk to people who have been connected to nonprofits and have seen a lot of things so you can get some education. We don't know everything, especially when you're starting something from scratch. You had brought some ideas and thoughts to me during that conversation that I remember, and it's so valuable to listen, to just go with your pad and your pen and old-fashioned way and take notes.
For sure. I do the same thing when I go to meetings with other philanthropic organizations and groups doing similar work to us in New Jersey. Like, I'm constantly jotting down, like, oh, that's a great way to approach this, or something to think about, or I need to reconnect with that person because they're doing something that is really interesting, or, we might be interested in working together on. I mean, a lot of it is just like keeping your ears open, listening, and then like drawing those connections where you can.
Is there a story that stands out to you at all, any in the work that you've done that just kind of touched you, like something that's been, because you've been connected to so many nonprofits, is there anything that you can think of that just stands out?
Oh gosh, I mean, there's so many stories. Again, like when I think about the different programs that we do, it could be as simple as a great example. I think this year was we were approached by an organization called Operation Warm. And they were looking for a sponsorship to purchase warm winter coats for kids, knowing that so many families, because of COVID, were facing really challenging economic times, might not be able to provide that warm coat for their kids. And I took that call and I talked to the person, and I thought, more than just us writing a check for them to be able to buy some coats, there's more we can do because we have connections. So I reached out to like 6 other groups that I knew had resources and talked to them about what they were trying to accomplish. We all ended up working together. We put in some money, and by partnering with Fulfill, at the former Food Bank of Monmouth in Ocean County, and a couple other organizations, we were able to hand out thousands of coats to kids that otherwise might not have had that. And I was fortunate to be there one of the days when it was actually held at Fulfill, and the cars would drive up. Fulfill would give them like a nice box of food to get them through. And then the kids all got to pick out their own coat, what color do you want, and all that kind of stuff. So just, like the smiles on the kids, the families being, so appreciative. It's just sometimes the simple gestures. I think sometimes in philanthropy, we can overthink things too much. You can plan and you can bring in a consultant. Like, we do all these kinds of things, but sometimes it's just so simple. Like, kids need warm coats, buy coats, give to kids. So, and I think people latch onto those ideas too. And the partners that we had, they were all awesome and amazing. I hope we get to do it again this year. We did it once in Central Jersey, and then from that, a couple of people that were involved with it from South Jersey, they replicated it again toward the end of the winter and did it in South Jersey. So, it was, again, like a simple phone call with them asking me for a sponsorship turned into like a much bigger opportunity for all of us to help kids.
I can't even imagine the calls you were getting in the height of the pandemic. It had to be just overwhelming. And that story that you just shared is incredible, because I personally think when organizations come together, they can do better, even better things, more things, have a better exposure in the community, create a bigger and better, more connected community when organizations come together and share their expertise and are able to share funding and all of those other things. But during the pandemic, I can't even imagine how many calls you had received in general, just towards the OceanFirst for funding and for things. What did you have to do, and how did you pivot as an organization?
I mean, we learned a lot from the Sandy experience, as a lot of the nonprofits and New Jersey philanthropic community did. So, we kind of, having had that experience, knew a little bit about what we wanted to do, where we wanted to go, and how we needed to go forward. And I have to say, overwhelmingly, like, I work for a fantastic board of directors. The flexibility that they have and the kind of quick pivots that they were able to do, and just kind of trusting in knowing from that Sandy experience that, making some simple shifts would mean a lot for folks. So, we did some preemptive grant making. We just reached out to a few organizations and said, you don't have to ask us. We just want to give this to you right away because we know you're going to need it. And then we also set up a separate funding stream for some targeted COVID grants. but flexibility and just kind of being understanding with everyone. We had already approved all of our summer camp grants. We were kind of already committed to a lot of what we call good neighbor grants, some of which are for special events and some of which are for program purposes. And when groups said, hey, this is our scenario, we just said we're flexible. Just send me an email so I know what you want to do. Assuming it wasn't, far off the mark, which I can't think of anybody that was far off the mark because their mission is their mission. We just said this is the right thing to do and go forth and do what you need to do. And we'll come back later and figure out how you spent that grant. That's like the most important thing in those kinds of scenarios is just be flexible and listen to what everybody needs.
Absolutely. No, that's great. Thank you. So we've talked a little bit about the foundation, but I also want to share, have you share a little bit about OceanFirst on, as well. And like we said before, a couple of times, you've been there for a while now. So, kind of two questions. Tell us a little bit more about OceanFirst and then what keeps you there?
So if anybody doesn't know, like our story is a little bit unique. We OceanFirst, that is, were started when the bank went public in 1996. And it was the desire of the board of directors at the time and the leadership that was there, John Garbarino being a president and CEO at the time. They knew that they had a unique opportunity in that IPO to really create this foundation that would really just solidify the commitment that they always had in the community, but just kind of make it permanent. And there was about $13.5 million in stock that was set aside. It's all OceanFirst stock that funds the work that we do. And what's really amazing is that initial investment of about $13.5 million in OceanFirst stock, that's enabled us to award over $42 million in grants to organizations. It's because the OceanFirst Bank team does such amazing work and they've grown and prospered throughout the years. We fund our work with dividends from the shares that we hold. So just, that kind of synergy that's there, the bank does amazing good work in the community as well. We benefit from that and we can invest it back into the community. So it's a great model. And we know now that, lots of others have followed us. There's probably, I think we looked at it a few years ago, like the path of other organizations that followed the model that we did. And they literally hold hundreds and hundreds of $1 million in assets. And it was just started with this conversation and this idea at OceanFirst Bank, which, it's just an amazing institution. It's been around for more than 100 years. It was started right in Point Pleasant, so it's local. The people that work there are fantastic. They're community minded. They're connected. And, we just feel like blessed to be able to work with them every day. It's really like a great partnership for us.
Great. And so what has kept you there for, what did we say, 18 years are we right now?
It'll be 18 years this fall. I always remember the day because I think I accepted the position and like 2 weeks later, I found out that I was expecting my second child and I was like, oh gosh, that's rough. I have to go back and tell them I might need to take a maternity leave right after I start. But again, like they're awesome. There's never like, a challenge there. It's like, yeah, do what you have to do. The environment here is one where you're supported in the work that you want to do. You're trusted in the work that you do. And, that they really are a fantastic group to work with. That's what keeps me here. The people that I get to work with every day, Lisa and Steph, if anyone's listening and ever, on the communications and marketing side, Steph Toll takes care of that for us. And Lisa is kind of like our back office person who does everything else behind the scenes to make it all work. They're awesome people to work with. So, we all have fun every day, right? You have to keep it fun. Sometimes we deal with groups that have problems, and this year especially has been so daunting. And you just got to keep the fun and the laughter and the eyes on the mission that we're trying to help people. And we're trying to help organizations that help people. That's what's most important.
And it's so true. And it's nice when you have, more of that servant leadership, mindset too, as a leader leaders in the community. You get a lot more from your employees when you have that support, and it's all of us together, going after those goals. So that's great.
It is. And the bank even in the last couple of years, has really kind of taken, great steps forward. Volunteerism has become, a more prominent, activity within the bank. They created a Wavemaker committee, which is now recruiting bank employees to work with the organizations that we work with on volunteer projects, sending groups of people out into the community to, help. Again, sometimes it's not just about like writing the grant check, but we have talented people at the bank that serve in all kinds of roles on boards of nonprofits that, they've got great skill sets, and the bank is happy to share that. And they actually, formalize a policy that every employee can do 8 hours of paid volunteer time off every year. So, they're out there and they're looking for those opportunities to serve.
That's great. I think there's something to be said about bartering, right? Knowledge bartering is what I call it. When you have a great team that might have some knowledge, and there's organizations out there that you fund, but there's other organizations, small to mid-sized companies, that can't write those checks, but they have a lot of expertise and they can share their knowledge in other ways. And by doing so, they could actually help the other organization raise money. So we need to do a little. My thought process is we need to do more of that.
For sure. Everyone has something to contribute. Sometimes it's a check or cash, and sometimes that's not it.
Exactly.
Have that conversation and figure out what it is.
So at this juncture, right, where we're kind of now heading into this place where everything's starting to open up, things are changing. Thank goodness we're heading in a much better direction. What advice right now do you have? And I feel like the advice could change week to week, as we know, in this environment. But what do you have for the not-for-profit community right now?
Listen, I think everybody that does that kind of work, they're mission focused, right? They know their jobs better than I do. I get exposed to just a little bit of what they do when they are seeking, special resources from us, or I can help them with something. But these are people that are experts in their field. They know their stuff. So, advice-wise, I just think the biggest thing this year is just, continue to take care of each other, right? Spend time making sure that you don't burn out, because of the feverish pace of the last year and the work that everyone has had to do. I think everybody just needs to be kind to themselves and others, pause and have patience when you need to. But other than that, what you do, I know what you do from chatting with you just a little bit, but if I scratch the surface, I'm sure you're doing so much more. You're an expert in your field, right? So I think we need to support organizations and then move aside and let them do the work that they do. That's really important to me, to be supportive, but not we don't want to be all up in your business. You guys are the pros.
I like that. I like the way you put that. And speaking of which, right, I totally agree with you. This has been a very stressful, I don't know, it feels like 10 years, but it's 18 months, even if it's that at this point. And so there's so much pressure and stress on hitting goals and reaching goals on the nonprofit side. And it has been, abundant with, unfortunately, job loss. And now that people are starting to be rehired, which is fabulous. But what are some of the things that you do yourself to de-stress, right? Because I can't imagine, as much as it is on this side, the ones who are looking for funding, the ones who are the funders trying to help, you were in that same situation of consistently on the go. So what are some of the things you like to do to distress and kind of unwind?
Well, I have 2 kids, so, sometimes they help me to stress and sometimes they add to my stress. But, again, it's just like being patient. A lot of time was spent indoors this year, so I probably cooked more family food than I ever did before. Being outside is, I think, fresh air, sunshine, all important. I know I'm looking forward this summer to just kind of getting outside, and I finally got to take a vacation a couple of weeks ago. Like for everybody that hasn't had like that long mental break, highly recommended. If you have vacation days on the book, now's the time to tap into those and just completely disconnect for like a period of time if you can. I know everybody doesn't have that opportunity, but if you can do it, it is rejuvenating. If you can't do it, you just got to find those little moments of time during the day where you have the opportunity. It's just that you got to you got to keep yourself charged up. It's hard work that a lot of groups do. It's incredibly important, and I know a lot of organizations are really struggling maintain their staffing, as many other organizations are right now, to get people hired back, and just to keep the levels of staffing that they need in place for programs.
Yeah, it's very, very true. Trying to before, unfortunately, they had the sad conversations. Now everybody's struggling to get people back quick enough because things are starting to open back up. What are you seeing right now in the way of in-person and virtual? What have you been seeing with events?
I think it's a mix. I think there's a group that, there's a lot of groups that are ready to kind of get back to doing some of the fundraising events that they were doing. I've seen a lot of stuff happening outdoors, where people can kind of maybe feel a little bit easier about bringing larger groups of people together. Golf outings are super popular again, I think, right? I think a lot of groups are planning a golf outing, a walk, a run, whatever that might look like. But I'm seeing a mix. I know in summer camp, which we just did a round of grants there's still some groups that are doing virtual. Some are doing in person. I think, some are being flexible again to offer to families what they need. If they're not ready for the in-person, they're still doing that virtual option for them. So it's really a mix, I think. Hopefully, as the year goes on and the summer goes on a little bit better, if everything continues in the right direction, people will feel more comfortable to get back to doing some of that work that they used to do in person. I know we're looking forward to it. We are, I'm kind of letting something out of the bag here, but we're celebrating our 25th anniversary this year, which is amazing. And we hope to be able to celebrate that with all of the awesome partners that we've worked with over the years in some way. So hopefully we can do something in person, but I just know that there's a desire to try to bring people together and reconnect. When you attended our summer camp presentation a couple weeks ago, it's just part of it was people just seeing each other for the first time in a really long time. Yeah. And is that you behind that mask? And, haven't seen you in a while. It's just feels good, right? Even if you have the mask on, it just feels good to see people. So.
Oh, absolutely. Because that connection and that energy, you can't get that through Zoom. Very little, it's limited. We try to all feel it, but it's not the same as when you come together. And you mentioned golf outings. I remember way back when, 2012, I'm going back to now, when I left the Heart Association, they were reevaluating whether golf outings were even going to continue for them because people were getting tired. Now I'm seeing everybody out and about for the golf outings. There's rejuvenated now golf outings.
Yeah, for sure. If you can get outside and help a great cause, I think it's for this year. It's a great win.
Oh, absolutely. And we're in that space of for Applaud Kids. Do we have our gala inside? Do we do virtual again next? Because it's going to be in the fall, and you just don't know, right? We're all kind of every week is a new story, so we're just kind of riding the wave.
Be flexible, and just kind of roll with it when you're able to make that decision. I think people will follow you, and they're going to want to support you either way that they can. It's just, I think everybody's waiting for that extra certainty that we're good.
Right, exactly.
Nobody wants to take a step back. I know I don't want to take a step back because I have 2 kids in school, and you just want to help all these young kids get back to where they were. That to me has got to be one of the biggest challenges ahead for so many. It's whether it's just getting to school or the mental health challenges that kids are facing now, and re-engaging them and in face-to-face activities. That's just such a huge priority at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, before the pandemic, the kids were already in their phones, right? And then during the pandemic, that was all they had, and now they have to. It's almost like re-education of how to be social again now that people are starting to get out.
Yeah, that's why the work that you do is so important, right? You're reaching kids. During the pandemic, you were still there for them, but it's giving them those opportunities to be creative or to express themselves and just release some of it. It's just really important work.
Absolutely. We were doing it via Zoom while we had to, but they were coming on with their parents, which was really kind of funny when, we had a hip hop dance party class with kids and parents. So it was just, we did what we had to do. We all did during the pandemic. Now we're moving forward, but I wanted to ask you, because this is something I listened. I don't know if you've ever heard of Simon Sinek. But Simon Sinek had put something out about nonprofits and how nonprofits should be called for impact organizations. And I've been on this bandwagon because nonprofits are the only sector that talks about what they're not. And I'm sure you know this, when you hear somebody in nonprofits calling you, you in your mind already have to be thinking, well, obviously they're going to possibly want some funding. But if you're, in a for impact organization, to me personally, and I want to get your opinion on this, just sounds like there's just so much goodness coming from that, and that it's making a difference as opposed to nonprofit. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think it's a great direction to be heading in. I think people have different mindsets about what nonprofit means, but I think they're doing such important work. Like impact, yeah, they should be impact ! Like that's what it's really about. I think there's just mindsets that need to be changed so people think about not-for-profit work differently. It doesn't mean that you should be paid less or under-resourced or bare bones and looking to just do everything as easily as you can. It's just like the challenges that nonprofits are trying to face, are huge society problems, and on that side of it. And then there's a whole other side of it, the groups that are doing impactful work around arts, culture, like the stuff that enriches us, and that kind of mindset that folks have of that nonprofits are less than is just ridiculous at this point. Like the sector, I think, has done so much work around this, and there's a lot of like thinkers like the one that you mentioned that are trying to just keep shifting that mindset. I forget his name right now, but he does the great posts all the time on VU, right? I don't know if you're familiar with VU's posts.
Sure.
Never had him. I mean, like that's the kind of like stuff that people need to just keep thinking about. Read it, learn it, just provoke some thought there. I always read his stuff and I let it sit and think, and okay, am I doing any of that? I better fix that. Like you got to think about it.
Absolutely.
And you're spot on. Impact, yes. Exclamation.
I like that. I think we're going to have to change that now. I add the exclamations to it. Yeah, because like the first 2 years of starting Employer Kids, we weren't taking salaries, right? But you started to feel like you were the CEO of the lemonade stand, because everybody would say, oh, that's so sweet. That's so nice what you're doing. But they had no idea the amount of hours and the thought process behind it, and the getting yourself educated enough to even go to launch and start putting yourself out there. And so I think that whether you're what I call the bigger box nonprofits or someone who's starting, it's changing that mindset and shifting of, I'm not a nonprofit. We have to make profit. We all need to make money. We can't do everything for free. And you and I both know, in many cases, funding is, when it comes to, admin costs, it's hard to get that covered from funders. But nonprofit professionals cannot work for free. And that's something that, I think that's really important for funders. And I know you know this. I know you totally do know this, but it's definitely an important part of what we do. Or we can't do it. We can't do the work without the funding.
It's really hard when you see organizations that have, leadership in places like chief cook, bottle washer, and everything else that's falling on like a very small number of folks. Sometimes it's even just one, if it's like a newer organization. But that's why boards are there. Like boards are responsible, to support that other side of the equation, and your partners in it together. And if you've got a strong board, the value that they add, right? It's usually when maybe things aren't going as well as they could, that then a lot is falling on the person that holds the paid position. But if it's great, it's a partnership of everybody working together, and it's balanced, and everybody knows what the roles are. There's clear lines of communication. They're supporting each other. Like that's where you want to get. And there's so many groups like the Center for Nonprofits in New Jersey that do awesome stuff, to support nonprofits and make them better by providing free training and educational workshops and conferences and Zooms and all that other kind of stuff we've been doing over the past year. there's experts that can help. So, for people that are in that role and kind of feeling like they're like, where do I go with this? I think you just have to identify those resources and try to tap into them, have some conversations with people that, can have done it or could help you get through it and kind of help you guide yourself in the forward direction.
Absolutely. And I think that's the key is it's just coming from a place of asking somebody to help you by just having a meeting and asking them to share some of their expertise and those who have been there before, right? So that's the key is finding those who are doing exactly what you want to be doing, who have been there before and are succeeding and, and able to expand their reach in the community. So I think that's really great advice. What would you say is your biggest success in your career?
Biggest success in my career, I just kind of look at the whole thing as like, having this amazing opportunity to help organizations help others, being a part of something that was groundbreaking and visionary on the part of, the leadership of the organization. There's so many like awesome, like the story about the coats and Operation Warm. There's just so many awesome examples, right? So I am lucky that when I go out on the road, I get to see amazing, amazing things. People will come up to me at scholarship dinners, at parents that are like, you have no idea how important this scholarship is to my son, my daughter. It's not like you're paying for their whole college tuition, but sometimes it's like the confidence that student needed. As they're kind of moving on to their next chapter, that they've got that, or they'll tell you, I'm a first generation, I'm first in my family to go to college. Awesomeness, right? So, it's all the time. It's not, I can't put my finger on one amazing experience because there's so many amazing experiences. But I think it's just being a part of, if I had to answer, just being part of this organization that had a vision and a great idea. And now, not just within our organization, but, across, the United States, there are others that have followed our model, and now there's hundreds of millions of dollars that are funding this work with that little idea that started at OceanFirst Bank.
Yeah, all it takes is an idea and somebody that's going to take the first step to make it happen. And then it just kind of rolls from there. And Kathy, your energy is fabulous because of the fact that you really do care about the community and you love seeing all the work that you're the impact you're having. And we know that it's the foundation that funds it, but you are the one who's, pushing it forward. So, kudos to you and the work that you do and the fact that you give your heart to all that you do. It's not everybody who does that. So that's you and the specialness that you bring to your role. What would you say is a challenge was there any challenges that you had to overcome in your role?
Early on, a lot of the challenges were just kind of creating the systems because everything was new, right? So it's setting up the systems that will support your work going forward. I know my weak spots, and technology is probably one of them. So again, like when it's not my area of expertise, I know who to call, and I can rely on a lot of people within the OceanFirst Bank side, to help get through some of that. But the challenges, the other challenges that come to mind are just kind of getting to know new footprints, right? So because we were so focused on Ocean and Monmouth for so long, I have a good understanding of, who are the people, who are the organizations that are out there doing the work. But when we went to South Jersey, that was a whole new community for me to learn. And I didn't necessarily think we could, make a few grants and get started. But, it really is like you have to spend time there. You have to get to know the people. Now we're heading toward, Philadelphia. So again, it's like starting to learn, what are the needs of the people in that area? Who are the organizations doing the great work in that area? Who are the leaders that I need to connect with and meet, to talk about like what works and what doesn't work, where they are. So it's just a learning curve all the time.
I remember because I was living in Ocean County and then I had gotten the role at Heart Association. And they said, okay, you're going to run the Mercer County portion. And I'm like, where is Mercer County? Like, because I was not originally from New Jersey. So here I was, checking with, there was no GPS back then in 2005 when I started there. So I do know what it's like. Now at least we have that. But I know what it's like to go try to learn a whole brand new area. And you feel like, I felt like a fish out of water, just trying to figure it all out. So yeah, it's all about making those connections and meeting the movers and the shakers in the area to try to just continue to meet the right people. So that it also can be fun, right? It's also kind of fun to meet some new people.
100% fun. When I first started, going down to South Jersey, a true confession, like I really never drove some of those back roads in Jersey down in the southern area. Absolutely gorgeous. Like now when we head to South Jersey, I know where like there are all these great blueberry farms and farm stands and like where all that New Jersey produce is grown. You can pull over and like get fresh stuff on your way. It's like awesome side bonus that you get to see all these beautiful places, and you didn't even know some of them were there. It's they're just treasures. So.
They are. It is a gift, in our roles that we have the opportunity, because I would have never, if you're sitting in an office somewhere and you don't have to go and travel, why would you go, if you don't live in that area? But for us, it's nice when you can travel the state and get to see some of these great spots that you would never be introduced to. So I'm going to ask you the question I ask every one of my guests that I have on. It's the last question of the interview. And it's, if you knew then, and this could be then any time in your life, what you know now, what would that be? What would you tell your younger self?
Probably just take more chances. Don't be too conservative. Be a bigger risk taker, whether it's philanthropy or just other stuff in life. Sometimes you have to jump in a little bit and it might not work out to your advantage or, be everything you thought it was. But if you don't do that, you don't really get anywhere. You're not going to learn anything new. You're not going to discover anything new. I still remember when I was back at United Way, my first job, and they had let my boss go, which was very, jarring. They let him go, and I remember talking. She was like one of the women leaders in Ocean County. Her name was Connie, and she was like one of the first female stockbrokers in Ocean County. And other people were, being chatted about or applying for the position to replace, my boss. And Connie kind of like gave me the push in the direction. She's like, why are you not doing this? Like, why aren't you going to throw your hat in the ring? You know all of this. Like somebody else isn't going to know everything that you know. And, she kind of like set me on that path. And yeah, you're right. Why shouldn't I have this job? Like I should try this. And a lot of times you just you sit back too much and you watch instead of like jumping in. So lucky for me, I threw my hat in, and like the rest has kind of changed the path of my career. But I think you have to be ready when the opportunities pop up and be willing to take the chance.
Isn't it amazing what that one nudge changed the course and direction? It could have changed the course and direction for your whole rest of your life.
100%. Like that one nudge did change the course. It absolutely did. I still think about her, and she was just like such a trailblazer. And back then it was much different back then than it is now. It was just like a different environment. Like now, I think women are more empowered to speak up and step to the plate and feel like they could kind of have those opportunities. It just wasn't like that back there 25 years ago when I first started doing this stuff. But she was one of those that was like, you could do this, you should do this. You have to maybe overcome some challenges and what people think you are good at or what you're not good at, but be that risk taker. That's what I would tell myself. Tell my daughter all the time too. Like now I know, like I groomed my daughter, like you take all the chances you can get. Learn as much as you can learn.
Yep, absolutely. I just have to expand on that because I think I'm so glad that you shared that. So thank you for that, because there are people out there right now that could be mid-level, high level, and they might not be happy where they are. And they're afraid to make that change, even though, and that it could be that change. They know, they could feel it, they could taste it. It's exactly what they want, but they're afraid to make that move because they know how this works over here. And over there, they might not know. What is it? The fear of, when the fear of the unknown, the unknown is greater than the fear of the known, you'll make your move. But that could take forever to happen. So it's creating that confidence, and it doesn't, for some it comes naturally, and for others they need that push, right? I know myself, I look to my mentors and people to pat me, to touch me on the shoulder and say, maybe you should go that way. But there are times, I think now that I'm getting older too, I'm like, no, I can do this. Like, I just need to have the, I hate to say it, but the guts to just trailblaze and go. What do you say to those people who may not have that naturally? What advice do you have for them? Because I love what you started.
I think they have to look at the people around them that they admire, that they see as, supportive of them within their network. I just didn't come from the kind of family that was like, you got to do this career, have a career. Like, that wasn't really where I came from. So for Connie to be that person for me was like, oh, okay, I could do this. And so, for especially for, like I said, I referenced my daughter, I'm like, you have to be a risk taker. I had lunch with her before and I said, hey, would you be interested if I can connect you with someone that does the kind of work that you want to do? Would you be interested in having lunch and learning from her, right? So what can I do? I'm happy to talk to anybody out there that's thinking about like a jump, a shift, what I've seen out there, if I can kind of point them in the right direction, if I've worked with them a long time, give them a reference, like support them. I just think like isn't that what we should be doing? If Connie helped me, I should be helping someone else kind of move forward. It's just, that's just the right thing to do, right? Support each other.
Absolutely. And that is right. Lifting each other up, women lifting each other up, doesn't matter which gender, just we all lift each other up. We do that as a community. And oh my gosh, the places we could go. Two things that I'm working on this podcast is judgment and vulnerability. And the more we can show our vulnerability with less judgment, I think the further we can go and the higher we can rise in achieving our own goals. And that's the words I talk a lot about on this podcast, because people are afraid to show their vulnerability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in your work circles, whoever's listening, just find us. I'm sure there's somebody that you see every day at work that could use that encouragement or that little nudge that I got, or that you got, to say, hey, you could do this. It's supporting the people that you work with, making sure like they have opportunities to further their education, participate in workshops or take college level classes or go for certificate programs and connect them to other people that could help them, right? Like that's just, it's a way to give back to, the same folks that helped me along the way. Because I mentioned Connie, but gosh, there are so many of them that, over the years, especially in the early years, like some of the women leaders in Ocean County that really, really stepped up for me, which was awesome.
That is awesome. I'm in the same boat as you. I wouldn't be where I am now if I didn't have those great mentors who I still call on. I don't think you have to be a certain age to have a mentor. I think any age you can have a mentor. It could be somebody younger, older, different gender. It doesn't matter. It's just, who do you aspire to? Who do you look up to? Who do you think can help you and give you that little nudge? And as Kathy said, she's there to support those. I'm always here to support those who are in need of that nudge. And I thank you for it. I'm so glad you went in that direction, Kathy, because I think that's a really important message as we try to continue to build up the great work of the nonprofits in our communities and work with funders who are doing incredible work like yourself. And also try to give people the nudge that life is short. Do what you love. Right? Find a way to do what you love. Because like you said, 18 years and you're still there because you're doing what you love.
Yeah, I wish I could stay for 18 more, but I'll probably be a little ready to retire by then. But I love the work that I do. Like I said, the people here are awesome. It's a great place to work. It's a great organization that is supportive, not just of the community but supportive of the people that work here. So you kind of feel it every day, and it makes you want to stay. It makes you want to do good work. Makes you want to get better. Makes you want to get out there more. It's awesome.
That's awesome. Thanks, Kathy. Any last words before we go in this episode?
No, just if anything, thanks, Jody. I mean, I think these conversations are so important. I mean, they're sometimes small and short and simple, but you're facing like such big challenges, right, on all of these podcasts and the other work that you do. whether it's at DAC or, NJBIA. I just think like every bit of information that you can share with people, whether it's in a podcast or a Zoom workshop or an in-person workshop, you're just making us all better. So I congratulate you on everything that you're doing. I just think, keep at it, more of it.
Oh, thanks, Kathy. I can't do it without people like yourself and who are supporting us. So I so appreciate you and thank you for that. And so I'm going to say what I always say at the end of every single podcast, my mantra, which is today is the day. You cannot go back to yesterday and you do not yet own tomorrow. So what small step or large are you going to take to get yourself closer to whatever your goals are? Kathy, thank you so much for your time today and for the great work you're doing at OceanFirst Foundation.
Thanks, Jody. Have a great one.
You too. Bye, everybody. Have a great week.